Let's bring in Jamil Jaffer now. He is the executive director and founder at the National Security Institute and former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush. Jamil, take on that point for me, if you would. Iran has never before attacked Israel directly. This is the first time they have done so. What's the significance in your mind?
Well, it's obviously a huge step for Iran to take. They've been hitting Israel through proxies for the better part of a decade, going after U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, hitting commercial shipping in the Red Sea. But to go directly toe-to-toe with Israel is sure to provoke a response, and not just from Israel, but potentially from the United States. We will certainly take action to defend Israel, as the president has said, if we need to. But it may go further than that if, in fact, Israel feels the need to respond to this Iranian aggression.
So we're looking at the map now as you're speaking. You've got Iraq and Jordan between Israel and Iran. Would there be an overflight by Israeli jets, or would you expect some response using missiles? What kind of a counterattack might Israel launch?
Well, there's certainly a possibility that the Israelis could decide to overfly that territory in order to hit Iran. There's a variety of methods they could use. They could use responsive missiles. The first question, though, right now is how are they going to knock these drones out of the sky? There are photographs. The Times of Israel has photographs of these Shahed 136 drones flying over the land of Iraq. The reports are right now dozens. The normal Iranian tactic is to send many of these to try and overwhelm the air defenses. So we'll see how many they've sent. These drones are, by the way, the same ones that have been used against American forces in Iraq and Syria. They've been used against Ukrainian forces in the Russian war. The Iranians have given these drones to them. They're also used by Yemen, by the Houthis in Yemen, against Saudi forces. So these are sort of the classic Iranian attack drones, the suicide drones that have about 110-pound warhead on them that could cause some significant damage, particularly if they get through Israeli air defenses.
You've got U.S. forces in the Mediterranean Sea, and presumably they're going to be able, with radar sweeps and so forth, they're going to be able to help take down some of these drones as well, right?
That's exactly right, John. The U.S. just moved another 2 ships into the Mediterranean. We were told by U.S. forces that at least one of those has the Aegis missile defense system. That's a very fast, automated missile defense system that can select targets and prosecute them rapidly, along the lines, as Trey was saying, of David Sling and Iron Dome. So these systems actually can work pretty well in concert together to take out whatever Iran puts up. So I think we're looking at a situation, depending on how many the Iranians have launched, where Israel could effectively defend itself, but there's always the possibility some of these get through. And if ultimately people die in Israel as a result of this Iranian attack, you will almost certainly see a significant Israeli response. The question then becomes, what will the United States do if, in fact, Iran directly kills Israeli civilians inside of Israel?
I suppose it's difficult to crawl into the minds of the mullahs in Iran, but something made them decide to launch this attack, again, from Iranian territory, which they've never done before. Are they just that angry about what happened at their consulate? Are they thinking that now they are strong enough to make this attack work? Why now?
Well, look, I think they think that the Israel and U.S. are distracted, don't want a war with them. They are assessing that the U.S. will not engage based on our prior activities. The fact that we haven't directly engaged in Ukraine, the fact that we haven't directly gone into the war with Israel and Hamas, the fact that we're not effectively pushing back against China and Taiwan, and the fact that we whiffed back in the Obama administration on the Syria red line. So I think the Iranians assess the U.S. won't engage except to defend Israel. They won't engage offensively, and they believe Israel is distracted with the war with Hamas and the attacks by Hezbollah, another Iranian proxy. And so they're thinking maybe they can get away with this and respond to this attack on their consulate and respond to prior U.S. attacks like the Trump administration's killing of Qasem Soleimani a few years back after American soldiers were killed in Iraq and Syria.
But, you know, this changes everything. I mean, from now on, Iran is going to be open to Israeli attack, and the Israelis have plenty of weaponry. I mean, they might seem distracted, but it doesn't seem like they're going to let this simply be a bygone.
No, that's exactly right. Particularly if Israeli civilians die, I don't think they will let it be a bygone. And the Israelis have a very long memory. They have a history of hunting down those that kill Israelis all over the world. They will go to any length. And the Israelis have demonstrated a capability to operate inside of Iran. We've seen a lot of Iranian nuclear scientists over the years blow up mysteriously, bombs attached to their cars and the like. That's because Israel has the ability to operate inside of Iran. And so we'll see if they go directly toe-to-toe in a military confrontation or they use other methodologies. But the Iranians can be sure if a single Israeli civilian dies, there will be a significant Israeli response.
They promised a significant response after then President Trump smoked the leader of their Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Israelis essentially got his replacement a week or two ago, about 2 weeks ago. They promised a big response against the United States, but there really wasn't much that happened. Are they more bark than bite, do you think?
Well, that's historically been the case. They've been more bark than bite. And the truth is that when the U.S. responds aggressively and demonstrates that we won't be pushed around, most nations around the globe don't want to go toe-to-toe with the United States. And I think the Iranians are the same. Now, the question is, do they want to pick a fight with Israel? I think the answer is no. But do they feel the need to respond? It looks like the answer is yes. And so now we'll see what this means, and are they going to really try to pick a real fight? So we'll see how big this attack is. You're right when you say that they didn't come after us after Qasem Soleimani. They tried a few more small attacks. None really had an impact, and so we sort of let it lie. That may be how this plays out, particularly if the Israelis are able to knock down all of these Shahed drones.
So if you're advising this White House, this Pentagon, what should the U.S. stance be? Do we wait and see what the missiles do? Do we wait and see how many of them there are? What's our response?
Well, look, I mean, I think the U.S. has got the right response thus far, which is we will do whatever it takes to defend Israel. And that's right. The problem is the reason we keep seeing these things, John, is the United States is viewed on the international battlefield today as scared of our own shadow. We're viewed as not being serious and not being willing to respond aggressively, being unwilling to use our military might. In the last decade and a half, the only real time we've taken the fight to the adversary directly has been the killing of obviously Osama bin Laden and Ayman Zawahiri, but then the killing by President Trump of Qasem Soleimani. Beyond that, we've been taking on the chin. Our allies have been taking on the chin. Dozens of U.S. soldiers have been killed by Iranian proxies, and yet we have yet to respond. And so I think the Iranians and others assess the U.S. as unwilling to be in the fight. And so if this administration can demonstrate they actually have the courage of their convictions, that would make a difference.
Well, the administration has essentially said we don't want to see a wider war in the Middle East.
I mean, this is exactly the problem, right? The administration wants to talk about defending Israel, doing the right thing, protecting Americans. But when push comes to shove, they don't appear to be willing to put their money where their mouth is. And the entire world sees that. They see that in Ukraine. They see that in Taiwan. And hopefully they won't see that here. But I worry that is the case. And that's the challenge we're facing because the United States doesn't act like a world superpower, even though we are one. And we haven't, to be honest with you, for the last decade and a half, unfortunately, John.
Is this all about that airstrike that the Israelis launched on the consulate in Syria, the Iranian consulate in Syria, which might as well have been called an Iranian military base?
Look, I think that's part of this, but I think there's a longer story here. Obviously, the Iranians have been coming after Israel and the United States for a long time. This is just another step, and that they assess they can get away with. The question is, can they? And if they can't, and the U.S. and Israel and our allies effectively respond, then we won't see these happen again. But if we don't effectively respond, which is the problem, has been the problem now for a long time, the Iranians are going to be tempted to press the line and toe and try to go further and further. It's like a kid, right? If you don't discipline them, they will try to take advantage and test your boundaries. That's what the Iranians are doing right now. The Israelis will respond. The question is, what will the U.S. do?
Jamil Jaffer, who worked in the Bush administration and knows a lot about, obviously, national security. Thanks very much.